Hello. This is the energy report for June 20th, 2023. The sun is coming into gate 15. The quantum human design system calls this the gate of compassion. This is coming from our G center, connecting down into our sacral. And the I Ching calls this modesty. And so the overall challenge for the next 6 days in this energy is to learn to allow ourselves to be in the flow of our own rhythm, to not beat ourselves up because we don't have any daily habits, to have the courage to do the right thing even if you're worried about not having enough, to share from the heart without giving up your heart, serving as the martyr. And so really looking at being able to share our gifts, having that energy, not really coming from the lack, but also making sure that we are not overextending, doing what truly feels right, and listening to our authority about that. And now the first line coming from the I Ching, really looking at this gate of modesty, right? The first line, the investigator, feeling into this energy, leaning into it. Duty is the key word here. The ability to confront any challenge without expectations. Harmonic relationships which give support for fulfillment of any task. The capacity of self to confront any challenge through the extreme in harmonic relationships. An alienation endangered through exaggerated claims. The capacity of self to alienate others through extremes. And so really looking at kind of like our boundaries and looking at our dependency, or how much we really, if we are codependent or if we're independent, and how much our relationships, other people really help us along the way, and really learning to give what we can give so that it is truly coming from the heart. There's no conditions onto that gift, right? Making sure that we also don't feel like there's this duty, there's this obligation, that it's our responsibility, kind of leaning into giving everybody their own responsibilities again, and that it isn't our job to fix everything and do everything for everybody else. That isn't what supporting people is, and being compassionate doesn't mean that we have to martyr ourselves, but sometimes it's just holding that space and allowing them to explore and to go through what they need to go through. And so we get restoration coming from the heart going into the G center. I really feel like this is about like restoring and knowing when and how much to give, right? How much do we kind of take on that duty role, and how much are we willing and able to just to sit and hold that space, right? Sometimes sitting and holding the space can be a little bit challenging when we feel like we've been almost taught and conditioned that we have to have an answer or a solution, or especially if we are one of the 49% that is like avoiding the truth. When we have these open solar plexuses, we want to kind of avoid the truth. We don't want to bring on any confrontation, and so we tend to overgive, overdo, and not really looking at that. And so how can we know our value, know our worth, know that we don't have to fix anything for anybody, but that we can still be compassionate, and we can still hold this space, and we can still be there and support them in a way that isn't draining for us, so that we can continue to do it and can do it for other people, as well as nurture and take care of ourselves. And we get basil. Basil. I got a new deck, and this is essential oil deck. And so basil, it restores the mind, body, and spirit. And so let's see what else we get about basil. Very fitting with the restoration, right? Basil symbolizes love in Italy, and a woman traditionally places a pot of basil on her balcony to indicate that she was ready for her suitor to come. If a man arrived wearing a sprig of basil, it signified that he was had serious intentions for her, and that it was believed that she would fall in love with him. The oil is excellent for a wide range of physical and mental conditions, including painful and inflammatory conditions, infections, and mood disorders. It stimulates energy while also uplifting the mood, and it alleviates muscle spasms and digestive cramping. For cooking, you can use it in tomato sauces, Italian food, vegetable dishes, pastas, and rice. Basil is a powerful restorer of the body, mind, and spirit, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed or exhausting, strengthening and stimulating while well the ability to ease the physical and emotional or mental fatigue. The basil essential oil can help you when you're experiencing a wide range of symptoms due to stress or energy depletion. Basil also has a reputation as an aphrodisiac and a potent ingredient in potions that can awaken love of the partner's interest or passion, or when passion has faded, or when sexual desire is lost due to anxiety. And so really how beautiful finding this basil, leaning into the basil when we get compassion coming into this gate of love, leaning into taking care of ourselves as well, nurturing ourselves, coming from a place of love, not of this place of depletion or feeling like we have the responsibility for taking on for other people. And that can bring on a lot of uneasy emotions, a lot of uneasy boundaries, right? And it can bring on expectations and different stresses on the relationship. So when we can really learn to kind of take on our own emotions, our own responsibilities, knowing that when we're leaning out to friends or family or whomever we're leaning on, that we're just wanting that supportive ear, but we don't really want them to feel like they need to fix or to do anything for us, because we want them to be and feel restored. We want them to know that they can come from this place of compassion and not feel this guilt that they have to do anything for us, right? And so leaning into that unconditional love of being able to do what we can do when we need to do it, and looking at that basil in that instance. Oh, there was a little palmetto bug just flew across my leg. I'm gonna have to look that up. Whew. And then we get Mami Wata, which is our memory. Mami Wata. Look how beautiful she is. Mami Wata. And so let's look up her message for us. Mami Wata. And so that water, that flow, that learning to kind of let go and kind of just go with it is kind of really what I'm feeling whenever I see that mermaid, like leaning into the feminine, leaning into that feminine side, those bright colors, the free flow of her hair. The Dojon creation myth tells the story of Mami Wata dates back over 4,000 years. A figure is floating in the ocean with large red and black snake around her shoulders. Her tail bursts with emerald greens, and her hair encompasses everything around her. Mami Wata is the spiritual and material oracle, and it comes to you when you're going to gain something, if you have called upon her for help. She loves to help women and will protect the sacred waters around her at all costs. Her eyes hold a stern gaze that shines intensely. The water in this card is a major factor, as Mami Wata uses the water to prove a point or to teach a lesson if her messages are not received. Many people seek the help of Mami Wata by dancing themselves into a trance. This card could also be a sign of fertility. And so this leaning into the sign of help and this compassion and this Mami water, this mama water, this water goddess of encompassing this love and leaning from the compassionate heart of doing things that aren't conditional, that we aren't expecting anything in return, that we're doing it because we truly have the energy to do so and we want to do so, and we know that it's not draining us and that it's not a duty, and that when we can do it when we truly have no strings attached and it comes from that unconditional, it truly comes from the heart, then that's when it's harmonious and for both parties, right? We really should be coming from this place in these relationships where we don't have these expectations. We don't even have these roles or these duties that one needs to play. It just needs to be a little bit more fluid and go along with reading into one another and being able to support one another in the areas when they need to be supported, and vice versa. So having a little bit more of that fluidity in the duties that maybe we might think that we have in a relationship, whether that's romantic or coworkers, whatever it may be. I'm sending you all so much love. Enjoy the next 6 days in the gate of compassion.